Hello, this is John Kitsteiner, and this is episode 18 of our life here on the farm. I wanted to review our brooders here today since I've been taking care of the goslings, and we actually have some ducks and guineas coming in the next couple days, and wanted to kind of review what we've got going on here. You can use just about, as I try not to kill myself by tripping over stuff, you can use just about anything to keep the geese in. You can use a Rubbermaid container like we have down here. You can use an old box. We decided to build something a little bit more permanent because we plan on having quite a bit of geese and ducks and chickens kind of rotate through the farm as chicks and goslings and ducklings. And so we built something a little bit more permanent, something that was going to be a little bit easier to clean out on a regular basis. And so we built these brooders. This is still a bit of a prototype. This is an improved design based on our first one. But what we've got going on here is a large open space for the geese, or the birds. Let's see if I can actually make sure we can see everything in here. This area on this side, which takes up about 2/3 of the brooder, is covered with straw / grass clippings that have been dried out. These are from our farm when we've cleaned out some of the grass areas around the house. And then over here is a mesh area that drops down into a Rubbermaid container. And so that's our width. The width of this is based on the width of the length of this Rubbermaid container, so that all the water drops down straight through into that. It makes it a lot drier conditions on the inside. We have our waterer right here, which is just a stainless steel 12-inch feeder, and they can easily get in there and drink. They all just got out of their bath, which is why they are all soaking wet and cleaning themselves right now. And the mesh that is under here, let me come over to the other side. I won't pull it out too far because they are standing on it, but this tray comes out so that can be cleaned as well, but they're standing on it right now, so I'm not going to pull it out. Over on this side, depending on the shadow if you can see, we just have this same mesh type framework. It's all 1/4-inch hardware cloth, sits on this frame, and this is free swinging a little bit just to give some extra space so that their feet don't get caught in here. If we had this up tight, real tight, they could actually get their feet caught if you had enough stand on there and get some downward pressure. And we have these hooked up on 2 links of chain. The initial design was to have some latches, but those were ridiculously expensive, and this was a much cheaper alternative my father came up with. And so to clean it out, you undo this side and undo this side, and the entire tray will swing down and drop right into our collection bucket. And this is just an old Tupperware container, and that's the size of this mesh floor is based on the width of the container underneath, so that everything is dropped down easily inside. And so this was all designed mainly for ease of use and cleaning. We actually have some trays over on the other one, some mesh screen with 1/2-inch hardware cloth that goes over the top as a lid that we can put on at night to keep out any unwanted guests. We haven't seen many, but I know there used to be some pretty large rats around here, and they would love to get in with our animals. For our heating system, we have this piece of conduit that we put on an angle and hung our light, and this whole thing is adjustable up and down so that you can raise and lower it based on the needs of the birds, based on their temperature. This is a ceramic socket, not a socket, but a whatever that thing is called. It's ceramic right down here so that it won't melt when the heat of the lamp gets too hot. This was about $8 on Amazon. You can pick them up other places, but it's very important to make sure you get the ceramic socket. Inside, I chose not to use the light. bulb as opposed to this ceramic heating element. This is used at reptile stores to heat up areas. The reason I chose that is that I wanted to make sure that we had given the birds normal light and dark cycles. I know if you read a lot in the kind of the extension agricultural literature, they say to provide light for the birds for the first couple weeks, which I think is bogus. I mean, where in nature do animals stay in perpetual light for the first few weeks of life? And so what this does, the ceramic light, or the ceramic heater, will provide heat and warmth without the light so that they get used to the normal diurnal cycles day and night. And so that is about it. The entire structure has been built out of recycled products. The walls were all based on, it came out of a library that was being remodeled, and which is nice. It's got a nice finish, which is easier to clean than bare wood. Everything else, I'm trying to think, the only things that we bought here were the wire, the hardware cloth, obviously the feeders, and the light and the heating element. A little bit of chain, which was cheap, and then we reused old Tupperware or Rubbermaid bins for everything else. So this is a way to kind of do a more permanent but inexpensive brooder system, and it's still a work in progress. We've already identified a few things that if we would rebuild these in the future, we would do a little differently, and hopefully in our future versions we will find workaround solutions for all those. But hopefully that gives you a better idea of what we've got going on here. Once again, this is John Kitsteiner in Bulls Gap, Tennessee.